Welcome back to the channel, guys. Welcome back to Spontaneous Remarks, the podcast where you never know what's going to happen, what's going to be said or done. You just got to know what we're talking about. On this episode, we only have 4 topics left of this season, unless I think of something else. But I think I've covered everything I want to cover. So let's give the wheel of Nerdville a spin and see what tonight's topic is going to be. Ta-da! Oh, tonight's topic is a very popular movie from the 80s and one that was requested by a friend of mine. We're going to be talking about that movie, The Breakfast Club. So here we go, guys. Let's get into it. This episode of Spontaneous Remarks was brought to you by that Saturday morning detention way back in the 80s. Here we go. All right, guys, welcome back. Welcome back to Spontaneous Remarks. How's everybody doing this Friday night? It's Thursday night, almost Friday morning, but anyway. Doing a little bit of work at night, and I decided to go ahead and do my podcast because I missed last weekend. It's been a busy weekend. Man, this month and last month has just been really, we've been stricken with a lot of unfortunate people in our church and families. We've had several people passing away, and it's just been a really busy time, and we're preparing a worship night pretty soon at our church, so I've been busy doing that, practicing and things like that with music. So tonight I wanted to go ahead and do our podcast and get that out of the way for this week. Like I said earlier, we only have 3. After today, we'll have 3 more episodes for this season, and then I'll be preparing for next season, and I'm not sure what I'm going to do it on yet. But it's going to be fun, I think. So this episode, we're going to be talking about the movie The Breakfast Club. This was a classic American teen drama film that has become a cultural icon since its release. It was directed by John Hughes, and it was released February 15th, 1985, which was my wife's birthday, February 15th, 1985. It was a teen drama / comedy drama. It was only 97 minutes, which is an hour and 37 minutes long. The budget was $1 million, and it brought in $51.5 million at the box office. Now, this film, simple little plot. It follows 5 high school students from different social groups that spend a Saturday in detention together, and throughout the day they open up to each other and realize that they are more alike than they thought, which is true in a lot of different cases when it comes to people. We're very much alike, no matter where you're from. So John Bender, which was played by Judd Nelson, he was the rebel. He was the bad boy. He had the gloves with the fingers cut out and the jacket and the earring, and man, he was the one that he cussed all throughout the movie. We watched this when I first watched it. Now, being me and born in 1980, I was only 5, so this is not something that I had watched growing up. So I didn't watch it until a couple years ago, and I thought it would be good for just a family night. No, it had several, as Spock would say from Star Trek 4, colorful metaphors used throughout the entire movie. Claire Standish was played by Molly Ringwald. She was the princess, or the spoilt brat of the movie. Andrew Clark was played by Emilio Estevez. Emilio! Anyway, you might catch that reference, but I don't know. He was the athlete. He was a football player. He had the Letterman jacket. If it was in, no, maybe not. I was going to say if it was Saved by the Bell, he'd be known as preppy, but not really, even though he had the hair and he had the kind of look. Brian Johnson, which was played by Anthony Michael Hall, he was the brain, the nerd of the group. And then Allison Reynolds was Allie Sheedy. She was the nut, the basket case. And all five had to stay in detention on Saturday, this one particular Saturday. And the film explores, teenage identity and the pressures of social expectations, challenges a lot of the stereotypes associated with the different high school cliques. And, a lot of the characters had developed a deeper understanding and empathy for each other throughout the movie. Now, several of the movie iconic moments, there was a dance scene which played out in the library. It's one of the most memorable parts of the movie. There's a part where the three guys are dancing and they're doing like the, I don't even know what kind of dance you call it, but it's like a walk where they had their arms up and they were taking step by step, kind of slow. And then Molly Ringwald, she had her dance, which actually showed up on Fortnite as one of the emotes. Don't really know what you would call it, but it's in the film. It's a pretty cool little moment there. And, there's Don't You Forget About Me, the song that ended the movie from Simple Minds. That became iconic and is closely associated with the film. That is actually a very good song. If I remember, I don't think they wanted to record it initially, but they decided to because of, whatever reason, and ended up being a big hit for them. I think Simple Minds was out of England, maybe. Scottish. They were Scottish. And that song gained widespread fame as the theme of that movie. So the song was written by Keith Forsey and Steve Schiff, specifically written for the movie. And initially they had declined to record the song, but they were convinced by their label. They agreed. And it actually became a number one hit on the U.S. Billboard Hot 100 and the UK single chart. It peaked at number 7, and it became Simple Minds' biggest hit and often is associated with the 80s. In fact, that's the only song I know by Simple Minds. The lyrics reflect themes of longing and remembrance, resonating with the film's exploration of identity and connection. So, the key lyrics, that first line, won't you come see about me? I'll be alone, dancing, you know it, baby. And then the chorus, don't you forget about me. Don't. That's just a cool song. I like that song. The song's prominence in The Breakfast Club is what made it such an iconic 80s anthem, and it's often played at events and as a staple on 80s music playlists. If you didn't have that song on your, I was going to say on your playlist back in the 80s, but you would have had a mixtape. It's iconic. That's all it is. The music video featured the band performing in a dark, surreal setting, interspersed with scenes from The Breakfast Club. And, the legacy, it's been covered by a lot of different artists. It's been referenced and parodied in various media. It was even featured in Pitch Perfect, the movie where they were all a cappella in college. And it was used in that in a very unique and surprising way. And it really brought the movie together. It continues to receive that airplay on the radio stations and streaming platforms, maintaining its status as a classic. In fact, I believe I got my Spotify pulled up real quick. Let's just see how many times it has been downloaded. Simple Minds. Don't you forget about me. Oh, I'm tired, guys. Oof. Okay, let's see here. Wow. It has been downloaded or streamed. What number is that? 920,669,282 times. So, yes, it is a huge, huge. I mean, my gosh, looking at the songs that are recommended, I mean, it's even got more downloads than More Than a Feeling by Boston, which was 845,388,540. And that's a pretty popular song. That's pretty crazy. 920 million streaming. I mean, that's crazy. But that was what happened with the song. Now, the band recorded the song in just 3 hours. The band's initial reluctance is kind of crazy because they didn't want to record and sing a song they didn't write themselves, but eventually agreed. And it plays during the opening and closing credits of the movie The Breakfast Club, just reinforcing the association with the film. So let's go back to the movie now and finish talking a little bit about. So John Hughes, he was known for his work on other iconic 80s films like 16 Candles and Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Molly Ringwald and Anthony Michael Hall, they were considered members of the Brat Pack, which were a group of young actors frequently cast in films during the 80s, in teen films in the 1980s. And then Judd Nelson's performance as John Bender is one of the most memorable of his career. And The Breakfast Club does remain just a beloved film that continues to resonate with audiences and reflecting the timeless struggles and triumphs of adolescence. Now, if I remember right, there was an episode of Victorious that kind of parodied the movie. Let's see if I can find... So the TV show Victorious aired a parody of The Breakfast Club Season 2, Episode 3, titled The Breakfast Bunch. And it was very similar. In this episode, several main characters from Victorious find themselves in that similar situation. They spend a Saturday in detention together and experience various events and interactions that mirror the 1985 film. Now, Tori Vega was similar to the princess. Andre Harris was comparable to the athlete. Jade West was the rebel John Bender's character. Kat Valentine was the basket case, had the traits of Allison Reynolds, and Robbie Shapiro was the nerd, the brain. And so much of the episode, so copyright, trademark, whatever you want to call it, I don't know how they could get by with this because this episode was very super similar to this. I mean, this would be the same equivalent of, Vanilla Ice and Under Pressure by Queen. I mean, it was that similar. There's several nods to the iconic scenes from the movie. The dance scene, where they dance around the detention room, the moments of personal revelation, and the bonding among the characters, and then the parody of the closing essay reflecting on what they learned about each other. There was a lot of humorous takes on it as well. I mean, the episode uses a lot of humor to pay homage to The Breakfast Club with exaggerated character traits and comedic situations. And there's even direct references to scenes and lines from the movie, just tailored to fit the context of Victorious. And the episode was actually well received by fans of both Victorious and The Breakfast Club for that similarity and that clever homage. And it did serve as an example of how often the modern shows can pay tribute to classic films and just introduce new audiences to iconic works. The Breakfast Bunch is playful and it's affectionate. Just a parody that captures the essence of The Breakfast Club while adding in that unique flavor of Victorious. So I mean, it just, that movie. When I watched it, I really enjoyed just the fact that they were able to look over each other's differences and just really take a moment to realize that, like so many of us, we're all in the same boat, and we're better together than we are apart. And so, I guess that's it's kind of a short episode tonight, but I don't know really much else I could say about The Breakfast Club. Each character was played brilliantly by each actor. They did a great job on every single aspect of it. And if you haven't gotten around to watching The Breakfast Club, you need to take a minute, rent that movie. I wouldn't watch it with any young kids because it does have several, as I say, colorful metaphors once again. But it was a very good movie. It was very good. Okay, so let's dive into some of the characters and their background. So Judd Nelson's character was John Bender. He came from an abusive household, which is hinted throughout his behavior and dialogue. Often uses a lot of sarcasm and hostility as defense mechanisms. His role was the criminal or the rebel, and he challenged authority and pushed the other characters to confront their own issues. Claire Standish was played by Molly Ringwald. Claire is portrayed as the stereotypical popular girl who struggles with the pressures and expectations of her social status, and representing the princess. Her character arc involves realizing the superficial nature of her social identity, and she actually ends up kind of falling for John Bender's character throughout the movie. Emilio Estevez's character, Andrew Clark. Andrew was he was a wrestler, not a football player, a wrestler, driven by his father's expectation to be a top athlete, which causes him to be significantly stressed out and having a lot of insecurity. The role as the athlete, his journey included confronting his own and others' preconceived notions of what it means to be strong and successful. Just goes to show you that you can be a positive or negative influence on your children, depending on how you have your expectations set for them. Brian Johnson, Anthony Michael Hall's character, he was the academically gifted student under intense pressure to succeed, which brings a lot of feelings of inadequacy. The brain of the group. Brian's storyline addresses the struggles of intellectual overachievers to fit in socially. I would probably fit in that category because sometimes I'm a perfectionist, and I'm sure I'm just like a lot of nerds. I assume I've got a little bit of ADHD and OCD. If things don't go just like I want them, it really bothers me. So I'm trying to work on those things. And Allison Reynolds played Ally Sheedy. Allison is eccentric. She's misunderstood. The girl who feels invisible and she's neglected at home. But as that role of the basket case, there's a transformation that happens during the film, and that just highlights the importance of self-acceptance and the pain of being or feeling overlooked. Now, this film is primarily set in a fictional Shermer High School in Shermer, Illinois, which was a recurring setting in many of John Hughes' films. The library where most of the film takes place was actually specifically constructed within a high school gymnasium, specially for the movie. Cinematography was directed by Thomas Del Ruth, and the film uses close-ups and wide shots to emphasize the character's isolation and eventual camaraderie. So there was a lot of the, once again, identity and self-discovery. The character's journey is just a deep dive into self-discovery, breaking down the facades that they maintain to fit in their respective social groups. I almost said retrospective. I guess it is now since we're in 2024. This is 1985. Social pressure and stereotypes, that the film examined, just showed the impact of social pressure and those stereotypes that high school students face, which encourage viewers to look beyond surface level judgments. And of course, there's the authority and rebellion dynamic between the students and the vice principal, Richard Vernon, which is Paul Gleason. And it explores themes of, rebellion against oppressive systems. Now, apart from Don't You Forget About Me, we've already talked about, the soundtrack featured other songs that encapsulate the film's mood and era, such as We Are Not Alone by Carla DeVito, Fire in the Twilight by Wang Chung, Waiting by E.G. Daly. So a lot of the quotes and scenes in the movie, the film has been filled with memorable quotes and scenes such as Bender's mocking of Claire's lunch and the group's heart-to-heart discussions. Does Barry Manilow know that you raid his wardrobe? Is one of the many iconic lines delivered by John Bender. And I don't know if I said it exactly like he did, but oh well. And then we talked about, a lot of the numerous TV shows and movies that have parodied or paid homage to The Breakfast Club. I've already kind of mentioned that. And then also the film set a precedent for future teen films, which focused also on character depth and realistic portrayal of adolescent issues. Molly Ringwald and Anthony Michael Hall had also previously worked with John Hughes on 16 Candles, and several actors, including Nicolas Cage and John Cusack, were considered for roles in the film before the final cast was selected. The film was shot over several weeks in the spring of 1984, and the cast members spent significant time together offset to build the chemistry seen on screen, which I think is pretty cool. Now, John Hughes' approach as the director just encouraged improvisation and personal input from the actors, which just allowed for more authentic performances. That's also such a good thing that, when you can actually just flow with everything. I mean, I'm not an actor by any means, but I could definitely respect what the directors do when they just allow those scenes to play out as the actors can put themselves more into it, the role, and not just, reading lines. It's more of just not playing the part, but what they say on Miss Congeniality, what's his name, was like, be the crown. Yes, you are the crown. So you got to be the part. Don't just play the part. Be the part. So yeah, it's just that was just a great movie, and so there's not much more we could really say about it except when you get done listening to this podcast, go watch the movie. Well, hey guys, that's going to be it for this episode, and we thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate my listeners from all over the world. I got a lot of people in France. I've even got some people in Moscow, Brussels, over there. I really appreciate you guys listening. I don't know if you can understand a word I'm saying, but if you can, thank you, and thank you, and thank you for listening. And I hope that you enjoy making me part of your day, and I hope that I can bring you much more content in the near future. For everyone in the States that listens, thank you so much. I know I've got people in different parts of the country. I've got the South, Arkansas is where I live, in northeast Arkansas. So I've got a lot of people in Arkansas, Tennessee, Kentucky, some in some of the Plain States, and California, some over there. So thank you so much for just making me a part of your day as well. And for my close friends that listen to me, give you a shout out to McVeigh. Really appreciate her, and Yasovich. You guys know who you are, and we thank you so much for being a part of my life and just making me a part of your day as well. Well, guys, I guess that's going to be it. I really appreciate all you do, and thank you so much for listening to me. And join us once again soon for another episode of Spontaneous Remarks. You never know what's going to be talked about, but I can tell you one thing. It's going to be something that hopefully you like. It'll be something from my childhood, dear to me, and maybe something we can have a lot of fun talking about. So, hey, we'll catch you on the flip-flop. Don't you forget about me. Don't you forget about me.